This year on Skyblock Plus, I made a bunch of progress. I lost some of it at some point and spent the last few weeks getting it back, but I made a bunch of progress nonetheless. We started like any other Skyblock playthrough. Break the first tree and make a cobble gen out of the ice and lava we started with. With a stone tool in hand and plenty of slabs made, we expanded the island to have more space to walk around. Eventually we added a stone gen so we could get some ores as we mined to make even better tools. After getting enough materials to make a diamond pick, we made a larger version of the stone gen to increase the speed at which we generate ores in the hopes of getting enough iron nuggets to make a piston. Our stone gen design had a major flaw as blocks mined had a tendency to pop up into the lava, causing us to lose the item. We needed a piston to push the block out of the way so we can make the gen lossless. After making a slightly better version of the generator, we got to work making the mob grinder and XP farm. It functioned off of mob pathfinding to lure the mobs into the drop chutes. After the grinder, I made the farming platform to get a better source of food as well as made a nether portal. Since we had nether access, I got some netherrack and made some quartz out of it to make an observer to improve the stone gen. And I then went on to make a basalt generator out of the block of blue ice hidden in the nether so I could start farming in the other nether ores. After that, I went on to make the first version of the gold farm and used the dripstone I found to make a lava farm. I also went below the main island to build a slime farm only to realize that I needed walls to stop them from just jumping off. Then my first big blunder of building a witch farm out of a fake hut, meaning it wasn't going to be a witch farm. I did, however, manage to catch enough chickens from jockeys to start a chicken farm. I decided to start exploring the other islands surrounding the main island using nether portal travel and managed to find an igloo and a village that I then exploited for its goods. I used its goods that I purchased using several inventories worth of rotten flesh from the mob grinder to make the mob grinder toggleable using redstone lamps and target blocks. And made a fishing pond to try and fish for a name tag to make an iron farm. Once I got that name tag, I made the iron farm so I could get the iron to make the anvil to name the name tag and put on the zombie. Now that I had a steady supply of iron, I made some hoppers to make collection systems for farms and caught some piglins for bartering. I also made a version of the stone gen that produced a large slab of stone so I could use moss and spruce to turn it into dirt. Then I had the genius idea of raiding the nether fortress to grab some blaze rods. I died several times, but I still got the rods. I decided it was time to start enchanting my gear so that I had better chances of survival next time around. But I needed a better source of XP, so I modified the gold farm to allow me to gain XP from it. Some mistakes were made along the way, and I died in the process. Since I was trying to build an enchanting chamber, I was going to need books, so I made a simple sugarcane farm that turned out to somehow be the slowest farm I've ever seen. While I waited for sugarcane to grow, I made a villager breeder to make a bunch of villagers for a villager trade hall. After laying out the groundwork for the hall, I made the automatic cooked chicken farm while I waited for more villagers to spawn, as well as made a bamboo farm. I then filled some slots in the trade hall to get a better supply of emeralds, and added the finishing touches to the bamboo farm to automate it. To make things a bit more interesting, I did some more exploring and found a jungle temple, a pillager outpost, and a wrecked ship. Next, I made an automatic cobblestone generator using a TNT duplicator that doesn't use coral or slime. With all the cobblestone I now had, I wanted to get more dripstone to increase lava production and a dripstone farm. So I made a wandering trader farm. And after a long time of waiting, I finally managed to get more dripstone and use it to build the previously mentioned farms. I then made another adjustment to the gold farm to try and make it capable of farming magma cubes, which didn't really work out very well. I then tried to make a blaze farm with varying levels of success, as well as making an automated system for the slime farm so I could produce more magma cream to make magma blocks for the gold farm. I decided, while I waited for those materials, that I'd like to automate the mob grinder and make a relatively better design. I think it works pretty well, all things considered. I then decided I'd like to go to the end and try and take on the Ender Dragon. Turned out the version of the world I was playing had a bugged version of the end, so it was very anticlimactic, and I got lost in the End Islands. I managed to find my way home, only to find it infested with Endermen. After gathering some tools for exploration, I made an expedition back to the End Islands to find an elytra. I managed to make my way back with 3 elytra and a bunch of End City loot. Afterwards, I needed a new XP farm, since I basically removed my other 2, so I made an Enderman farm to produce large amounts of XP. I then had the bright idea of making a Wither Skull farm and started placing buttons on every possible spawning surface in the Nether Fortress. This process only got harder as I progressed, as with a smaller area to spawn mobs spawned in a increasingly condensed area. I had to put the game into peaceful to be able to handle placing the rest of the buttons. I then got to work building the farm, and it turned out pretty good, but since other mobs are also capable of spawning in the farm, it didn't work for long, as the Iron Golem was swiftly taken down by the blazes and skeletons that could shoot it. With several Wither Skulls in hands, I tried to take on the Wither. One time legitimately, which ended with several deaths added to the counter, and one time by spawning it under the end portal in the end. I then gathered as many chicken eggs as I could and a few splash poison potions to make some Wither Roses for the Magma Cube farm. This is where we'll leave a bookmark. We then went on to use the magma blocks obtained through the Magma Cube farm to make another adjustment to the gold farm so that only zombie piglins could spawn, and so we had what was supposed to be the final gold farm. Next, with some nether stars in hand, I made some beacons to get haste 2 for new stone and basalt generators to get ores that I couldn't farm for, like quartz, diamond, netherite, and lapis, in a much faster way. Then, after finding a cool glitch on YouTube, I experimented with ways to exploit it and made a string duplication farm to trade infinite string with our villagers and get massive amounts of redstone for future projects. Like, for example, our storage system. I made a massive storage system that could hold several different types of items, and it required massive amounts of iron, wood, and redstone. I then got to work cleaning up around the island a bit, and added a collection system under the chicken farm to collect all the eggs. With 2 double chests worth of eggs, I spawned the Wither again to get all the Wither Roses I would need to fix the Wither Skull farm and make it so that only Wither Skeletons could spawn in it. And after several weeks worth of work, our sugarcane farm still hadn't even produced a sugar box worth of sugarcane. So I decided to take matters into my own hands and make a better farm with a design similar to my bamboo farm, except this one would auto-harvest once every Minecraft day. I spent some time adding more villagers to the trade hall to get some enchantments I was still missing, but I also wanted to get some drops from pillager raids next, so I didn't have to keep crafting totems of undying, and built a raid farm and waited for a bit, but I couldn't get a single patrol to spawn, so I never got it to work. This is where we go back to that bookmark I mentioned previously, as I had updated the mod pack recently, which caused the entire world to be empty for some reason. Not a single block remained, and my last backup was made back before the magma farm was even made. 2 months worth of progress just gone. It was a hard pill to swallow that almost ended the series, and it would have if I wanted to allow myself to have another unfinished Minecraft series on this channel. I have so many of those that I could not allow another series to end up on the pile. So I made a list of things that I needed to make to regain my lost progress, as well as some things I wanted to do before I could consider ending the city series. The recovery started with remaking the string farm, this time with 3 times the output, using the farm to get back all the redstone I was going to need to start bringing back some farms. I then used a better method of collecting Wither Roses by using snow golems by removing their pumpkins before letting the Wither take them out. Not only did it produce Wither Roses faster, it also produced more snow than I was putting in, so it was completely renewable. I then built what is now the true final version of the gold farm. Several layers of magma blocks going into an automated storage system. This farm is so efficient that the hoppers can't even keep up with how many piglins are spawning. The hoppers overflow if I stand near it for more than 30 seconds. With all of this surplus gold, I needed to make the bartering system to use all of it. This version had even more piglins, and a larger storage for all the loot I was going to get. With those farms out of the way, I started preparations to rebuild the ore farms by building a much better ice farm that had a storage buffer to save a large quantity of ice for mining. 10 blocks of blue ice is 810 blocks of regular ice, after all, and I was going to need a good farm to get all of that in a timely manner. With the ice farm done, I finally got to work rebuilding the ore farms. First, the modified stone farm that is now lossless. I disliked the original design because it still had the problem of items being destroyed by lava most of the time, so I modified the design to prevent that issue. I then rebuilt the basalt generator in the Nether using not even half of the ice produced by the farm. And finally, this week on Skyblock Plus, I wanted to make a cake to celebrate our 1 year of this series. So I massacred all of my chickens in the spawn chunks and made a patch of grass in the village in the hopes of spawning a cow. I waited the whole episode and nothing spawned, unfortunately. So at the end, I spawned in the cake to celebrate our achievement. It's been a wild year so far. I made so much progress and lost a decent chunk of it only to remake it but better. I graduated college with a bachelor's in computer science in hopes to become a game developer someday. I don't know how much longer this series will go, but there's a good chance it's not going to last another year, as I feel we're getting close to finishing everything I wanted to. But it still might take a while. So, tune in next week, where I attempt to make a large-scale passive mob farm in an attempt to finally get animals other than chicken on the island. But until then, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed and you're new to the channel, then be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that like button to let me know you want more. Also, be sure to check me out on Twitch, where I stream this series live every week. Link will be in the description. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and thank you all so much for following me through this year of content. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye now.